Awesome, guys. So we're going to just start it off right now. Could people just like settle down a bit as well? Awesome. Kia ora, everyone. I am Fatima Imran. I'm the president for MUSA for 2021, and these are my executives as well. On behalf of us, thank you all for coming. It is a great turnout. It's amazing to see how many students are involved, and it's good to have this engagement. And as I've said from the starting, as soon as I got elected, and I think my executives are probably tired of me saying over and over again, we were elected by you. Hold us accountable for whatever we've done and what we're planning to do as well. So in the space, this is a monthly meeting, so we will be going through what we've done for the past March and April. And if any concerns or any questions come up, raise your hands, and I believe Michael will just run and give you a microphone to ask. But yeah, awesome. Does everyone have or can see an agenda? If that's yes, no.
And a spare one here.
Great, perfect. Awesome. Just sit down. So the first, if we're going to start off with open student discussion, are we wanting to do this at first, or do we want to go through everything and start the conversation later? Or is there anything you guys want to bring up right now before we get started for the monthly meetings? Yes.
I'm just saying it would be nice if we start with like discussion and people having their concerns raised.
Yeah, 100%. If that's what everyone wants to do, we're more than happy to start it like that. Yeah. Great. Put your hands up, I guess, if you want to go for it.
Cheers. Kia ora. I think probably everyone's pretty aware of the open letters that have been circulating around. Got a lot of questions around clear communication and what's actually going on at MUSA. Yeah, lots of questions were raised in that second open letter, which we'd like to have an answer to. Obviously, it's not been that long since it's circulated. But with the AGM next week, is there an intention to put out a response to that in time for the AGM, that we can think it over and come to the AGM prepared?
100%. With the first open letter, I'm aware everyone's probably aware about it. It was put on the Massey Confessions page, and I'd like to say that it was sent to me and my execs on Monday, I believe, a few weeks back. I responded to it with a letter in return, and I provided that to, replied it to Leola, who sent the student concern herself. It was then spread to Massive as well, and I sent the same letter to Massive, and then it was sent to Manawatu Stand for Stuff, and I sent the same letter through there as well. There is streamlining of my information. There's everything, whatever I've said on that letter is what I mean as well. Transparency, I'm quite aware that everyone's like, what's going on, what's happening? I've not had anyone come to me directly from that student letter and said, look, you need to be, what's going on? Everyone's just sent it through, like it's been on Massey Confessions page, and I feel like that's not the best place for me or any one of us to sit and start arguing, if that makes sense. But if there are concerns, if there anything, even on the letter itself, if you haven't seen the response, I'm more than happy to discuss that right now as well, and clear any information or any rumours or any misconception or anything that's going around, because I know there's a lot that is going around. I've had people who've come just informally to talk to me about it, and I've said what in my answer is the best that I've got, and from my executives as well, and from that I've had a lot of things have cleared up. But if there are questions right now as well, please do ask. This is a great opportunity for me to say what you guys want me to, any answers that you want from my end, and I'll answer to the best of my ability as well. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. The question is more the second open letter. Yeah. So the response for the first open letter raised a lot more questions. which were taken through in detail, questions around the redundancy of the general manager, whether there is a restructure process happening or not, whether strategic decisions have been made or not, and there's no clear document which kind of outlines the answers to all these questions. Yeah. So my question was, will there be one?
Will there be one? Yeah, 100% it will be one. I received it on Monday, I believe, and I haven't had the chance. Of course, I'm going to sit down and do it properly. So I haven't had the chance to sit down and properly read it and properly give an answer back. But yes, you will receive it before the AGM. So if anyone has questions or concerns at the AGM, can bring it up, and it can be a properly thought out AGM. Awesome.
Hey everybody, how's it going? My name's Stephen Bibberstein. I'm the previous president of MUSA. I have a quick question for the board as a whole. Was the redundancy of the General Manager Craig Black ever brought to the board? Was it voted on? Are there minutes? Thank you.
There are not minutes on it. It was between myself and I'm going to be quite honest in those regards, there's not a lot I can say on it for, I guess, reasons that I don't know how to go about this, because of confidentiality reasons. My relationship, the board's relationship with the general manager, although I am accountable to you guys because I'm put in this place because of you guys as well, my relationship with Craig was an employee and employer what is it called? Relationship. So whatever issues or whatever was discussed between us, it was a voluntary redundancy, meaning that he wanted to leave and MUSA accepted. I do understand, Stefan, your question regarding are there minutes to it? Was it brought to the board? But my board are well aware of that as well, that it is something that me as a president, and because of confidentiality reasons, they weren't aware of it. But I like to say, I, being in the position that I am, have the best interest for MUSA. Right now, I know people are like, why is she acting general manager as well as president? Is she getting paid for that job as well? No, I'm not. I'm being, and like everyone in a union usually is, being underpaid, overworked, and I still stand here for the best interest for the students. I was elected by them, and it is for them, and in terms of Craig and whatever happened in that regards, whatever I said is what I can say.
All right, final part of the question then.
Yeah.
Taking this on your own, against the Constitution's advice, did you seek legal advice when dealing with the redundancy of the manager? And how could you be the acting general manager if the manager's position has been made redundant and therefore no longer exists?
So it's not made redundant. It is voluntary redundancy it's the wording. And yes, I have taken legal advice, and quite frankly, it hasn't been coming from my end at all. I've had HR involved, and I've done what I could have done from my end. And yeah, as for acting general manager, I said in the email as well, I'm not doing general manager's job. I'm just a point of contact for if anything's happening on an operational level or externally, until we find a replacement, until the board has sat down and talked it through what the next steps of the restructuring or whatever that looks like, then we will be making that decision going forward. Yes.
Hello everybody, good afternoon. My name is Tyler, and I was the previous admin officer for MUSA, and I'm just wondering to the board, and I'm just wondering for the board, why were the meetings that were skipped due to COVID lockdowns, why those meetings should have been able to still have been held over via video conference, because frankly it's 2021 and everyone knows how to use Zoom. So I don't understand why those meetings were not held over video conferencing.
Awesome, great, good question. So I got elected in, everyone got elected in last year. My term started in December. The executives came in February. Our first official meeting is supposed to happen in Feb. COVID alerts and COVID, that warning stuff happened. I would like to say that again, that happened, and I was unaware that whether we could do it because of inexperience from our end. We didn't know whether we could do it online. No experience, no nothing from our end, at least that I can say from my board. If my board wants to jump in, they're more than happy to. Whether that was an option, yeah, go on.
It's pretty clear to public knowledge that level 3 for outside of Auckland, not only was that only for 3 days, level 3, and someone can correct me, you can still have meetings of up to 10, or was it 100 or some? It's a fairly conservative number, and that's in person. So there is literally no excuse for that.
And I agree, but I wasn't...
COVID is an excuse, it's better to just be honest about that.
And I'm being honest as well, that meeting was scheduled in, and when COVID happened, that's what we said, and quite frankly, I didn't get that. And I got 3 days, and I'm not saying it didn't, but when we're talking to the executives as well, the next date was given, because 25th is when the university day started. We were planning on doing it in that week, whatever happened in the alert. And I completely agree with you, we could have still went ahead with it, but no talk happened from the executives as well, saying that we could have kept it going. So we said, let's do it in March 17th, we'll get Jan and Feb done then, which we did, and then the plan was to go in April because of stuff happening with employment, as well as the Easter break coming as well, and some lack of problems from our end as well. That didn't go through, and it was scheduled for May 5th. May 5th was then decided to move to 26th, which I completely agree, and it's understandable, and we take it on our shoulders that it was our fault in that, but because that week was handover period from Craig to myself, it got moved to 26 to continue 26 to report back to you all. And I agree, and if we take that on our shoulder, and even in the letter itself, I did say it can be accepted in part, and it's genuinely justifiable, and we do say it is our fault.
Hello, I'm Isabella. I'd just firstly like to say it's really awesome so many students are here, from an actual student saying that, like get involved in student politics. Democracy is cool. My question is that just like a time frame would be awesome on when you guys are going to hire a general manager. My concern comes for the people that actually work for MUSA. Like, I don't know if people realise, but even the people that work at the MUSA shop work for MUSA, and like health and safety, if there's problems in the workplace, they need an official line to go through. They need a manager, someone with the experience, someone who's been hired to do that, to deal with those things. I know someone with past work experience. If I didn't have like an actual manager to deal with things, I think that'd be kind of crazy. And just the fact that no one's been given a time frame on when someone's going to be hired, what the hiring process is, it's kind of nuts, and I do feel for those workers.
I agree, 100%. It are tough times at MUSA right now. What I'd like to say is that about the time frame and all that. Initially, when Craig left, my plan was, okay, great, I'm going to sit down, get the talk going, and find what the future steps are. Since Craig has left, there have been a lot of things that I've been doing to pick the pieces off, and it's been tough in that regards. And although from upfront people are like, oh, she's probably just sitting in a room and doing nothing and doing this and this. There have been issues with finances that I've been dealing with as well. There have been issues with property that I have to deal with as well, contracts as well that I have to start taking the names over. And although it sounds like it can be done over a day or so, when there's not been a sufficient handover or a knowledge of what's going on, I can't say that. But yes, on the timelining base as well, we will be sitting down actually today or hopefully tomorrow with the board and deciding what the next steps are. But yes, I do agree with you, having a centralised, for the operations team, having a centralised leadership is crucial, and that is what the intention is from our end.
So a lot of the things being brought up are kind of related to like MUSA and people involved with MUSA, but as a student, what are you guys, the whole exec team, planning to do for the actual students in regards to the issues that actually affect students, like dining hall and parking and all those kinds of things?
Okay, I'm gonna. Oh. Hello? Yeah. I can say, because as we get elected in, everyone has their own portfolio. I can only speak from my part, what I've been doing, and then I'll give it to the other people as well if they'd like to talk. Yeah, so when I got elected in, my reasoning for running was 3 things. First being parking, next being food, and then from my mates as well, having a bar. My first few months happened to be just learning what MUSA was and attending meetings, creating relationships, and I can say I've created great relationships in Palmerston North as well as Massey and students as well. So the first thing, and which is probably going to come later in the document anyway, but parking. So a lot of students I've had come up to me and myself as well that we have to pay $2.20 every single time we come in and then leave, and then if you want to come in again you have to pay the same amount. And I brought it up to the Deputy Vice Chancellor, and he said, great, okay, awesome, I'm going to give you contact to Richard Lloyd, who's the operations head, and said have a talk with him. I'm on the grants committee with him as well, so we sat and talked, and he said, okay, we'll run some numbers through and see how exactly are we going to help the students in this regard. So we've come up with, it's already in the comms hopefully from Massey, but we have put it through our end as well, is that where students can buy a package in the start of the year or wherever they want, and so basically pay $220 of some sort for the whole year for parking, and you get a like a swipe card, and there's potential where you don't have to park at Orchard Road, but you can use other parking and basically use it as much as you want, and have a designated park to use. When looking at the numbers as well, it decreased from $2.20 for every come in and come out to $1.10, I believe, and that is for the whole day. So it does decrease the pay quite a bit, and it helps people have a space for parking. The next step about food, I know food is such a big topic. When I came in, I was told that, oh, we have a contract with Compass, and we have a 5-year contract with them, and then the next 5 years it is up to them if they want to renew it. I was up at Albany, and I saw how they have like a kebab store and they have a sushi store, and for us our only next option to get food is either Whairata or go 5 kilometres down to the city and grab some food of some sort. So I had again talked to Richard Lloyd, and he said that basically we can create a, that's in the talks right now, we can create like a focus group which basically talks about what the issues are here, and then they can feed what they want from the campus or what they would like at Massey, and from there we will contact Massey and say, hey, can you get this done? And if they say no, then we can break out and find other options to bring to the students. So that is talks that I'm getting through as well. The last thing is on the bar as well. We with the whole Palmerston North thing going through that the bars are closing at 2 a.m. and you can't buy alcohol from 9 p.m. I had a lot of students come up to me on that as well, and I'm the deputy chair for the Youth Council for Palmerston North, and I have a great relationship with the mayor as well. So I had a meeting with the mayor and the deputy mayor, and we sat down and talked about how that's going and why is it happening, and have they looked upon that, yeah, students aren't going to be able to drink, but there's also a group of people who that a bar at 2 a.m. is a safe space if they're dealing with any other issues outside. After talking to him, there wasn't any clear indication whether anything could happen. So I came back and had a talk with the operations team at Massey, and they said if it is something that you guys, if students are wanting, there is something that we can do about it, but it's just in the processes from my end as well. So hopefully that goes through. Do the other execs want to speak on this?
Should I stand? So things that I've been working on lately, creating partnerships with our ASA and MUSA VPs to try and work on a period poverty campaign. So what we're trying to do is get free period products on campus for students. One of the things that we've done so far is Albany campuses now have sanitary disposable units in a lot of the male bathrooms on campus for any transgender students that are struggling with that. And I've talked with Richard Lloyd about getting that installed here and down in Wellington as well. So working on that, which is a great step forward for us. Another thing, I'm trying to create partnerships with UniQ and just try and make a better space on this campus for rainbow students, because I know that, you know, we're not nearly as vibrant as Wellington is. We never have been, unfortunately, and so that's something that I really care about and trying to better. And then I've recently worked with Thursdays in Black against sexual violence in our community, and trying to start relationships with them to try and make waves there. And then just general workshops and stuff. But yeah, what's the next one?
Another question over here. Sorry, just want to speak to that. So I'm just looking through, I mean, I'm not a business student or anything, so I'm looking through the Citizens Advice Bureau. It says here that redundancy is made when there's a restructuring consultation, and that voluntary redundancy is something offered from the boss to the worker. So if Craig really was like made redundant, voluntary redundancy is the line that's being shared around, why are we talking about replacing him? And yeah, basically, like, is this related to the merger that's been going around?
Awesome.
And if that is the case, why have you not talked to students previously? Because this seems like a pretty high-level decision that's kind of just gone ahead, even though you've been behind with the monthly meetings and all that.
Awesome. Okay, so for the first part about the voluntary redundancy, I like to say it's not in per se my hand in the wording being used. It's what has happened. In terms about the merger, yes, it did come according to that. The merger, I'd like to say, the talk about a single SLA has been going on for 10 years now. So basically, SLA, Service Levy Agreement. So basically, Service Level Agreement, I believe. So basically, Massey came to the student associations and said that we're tired of reading. So there are 4 student associations. There's MAD, Massey at Distance, MUSA, Massey at Wellington, our ASA, which is Albany Massey, and then there's us, MUSA. So they came to us, I believe, from my understanding from the previous presidents as well, is that the talk has been having for 10 years, and they basically have said, we're tired of reading all your guys' separate documents, because every year we have to give in documents to say, this is what we're doing, this is how much money we would like, and this and this and this. And we actually got a deadline this year saying, hey, you guys had enough talk. If you guys don't make an agreement on it, how you guys want it, we will do it for you. So by June or July. So we as me as MUSA's president, MAD, MUSA and ASA, we came into the conversation at a point when if we don't do something about it, Massey will do it for us. The marketing of that, what is it, I'm finding the words, yeah, so do you know how the MUSA posted that, oh my god, I can't find the words right now. They posted the advertising of the merger is happening. Sorry?
Press release?
The press release, sorry, thank you. So the press release they posted, it happened all at MUSA, ASA, MAD and MUSA as well, and all those sites. I was not for it at that moment because I kind of wanted to have that talk personally with people, but if I didn't go through it, you guys would have found out on their websites, and I know that wouldn't have gone down well anyway, because you would have heard it from them and you guys would have thought that, well, why aren't they talking about it? So that's what's been through. It's an investigation. It is a proposal, and we will be going to students for that consultation. So it was just that press release to say that this is what's been happening. I've had this talks as well. We've got Adar here and Esther from MUSA, as well as Manuatahi, and they're quite well aware of it as well, and we're trying to have these talks to see how can they be involved in that SLA agreement as well, and how the 4 general associations can be as well. It's going to happen for us whether we like it or not by MESI in July or June, and we're just trying to get ahead of it and do it in a way that will best fit the student associations as well as the students. Hopefully that, yeah.
Yeah, just.
Do you mind?
Sorry. Can I go or
yeah,
do you?
Go.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So, from what it sounds like Massey is putting a lot of the pressure on, but I'm not actually aware of like what can they actually do to the Students' Association if you guys fail to make a decision this year, and I guess there's like repercussions for also making these decisions without consulting students.
We've made no decisions without anything for the students right now at all. We have said this is what we are potentially wanting, a merger, and that looks like a full merger, or however it looks like. We will be bringing it back to the students, and if the students are saying, hey, no, we don't want it, then that's our answer to them. But right now, I have no clue what Massey's going to do. They've just told us that, hey, you guys need to get this done, and if by July you guys don't do it, then we will do it for you. However that looks from their end, that is their choice. I can't do much about it. Yeah.
My first question is on behalf as a board member is, why is most of what you just said completely news to me? Why have the board not been discussed?
Not news to me.
This?
All of us know this.
All of the board have not met to discuss this issue. A lot of what you just said is brand new to me. So why haven't I not been, as one individual member of the board, not been informed of what you just discussed? Why have we not been consulted?
Tēnā rā tātou, ko rama roa hau, ko au te kaiwhakahaere o Manuatahi. These conversations I have been in for a while now. It's been brought forth from Fatima, and she has been real concerned about having Māori voice at the table when these decisions are done, because Manuatahi is an association just like MUSA, and our rights to speak should be on the same level how we operate and govern ourselves as per MUSA, and that's why I've been involved in these conversations real early. And I feel like, yeah, that moving forward from this, having the Māori voice in there, and Fatima has done a good job in keeping us in the loop of what's happened, and that yeah, there's been consultation with Māori voice for on this matter. So yeah.
One of your board members hasn't been part of it, so it's great that you guys were missing one. So where's the?
I've also had long talks about this with Fatima. It started way back in January when we were down for our conference at the start of the year with NZ USA conversations.
So sorry, this started since January.
Yeah, so we've been notified since by Massey since our start of our term about this possible agreement. And we've had talks while we were all down in Wellington with. So I don't know from Alex's point of view.
I'm just wondering where the missing link is, because you've got one board member saying,
yeah. So,
I know nothing.
Could you just let her finish answering?
Sorry, right.
So just from my point of view, this is just mine, I'm not speaking on behalf of anyone else. Just from my point of view, I know it started for me down in Wellington in January. We had a conference down in Wellington in January for NZ USA. All of our associations were there that were part of the NZ USA Union. And we had conversations with MUSA, Massey Wellington, yeah, you know what I mean, and then ASA, Albany Students Association, about this. Fatima has taken the lead on this, as she is the president and she has the most hours invested in this, but I have been part of that conversation as the equity officer since January and know fully about it and I'm fully aware about it.
Just not.
Can I respond? All due respect, that's not how the board is supposed to operate.
I know.
It's not supposed to be a collection of individuals. The board is supposed to be a collective. That the board, as an entity, as set out in our constitution, in our board charter, are supposed to be consulted on, especially matters like this. If individual people within the board are consulted, great. That's the icing on the cake. But the requirements is clearly laid out in many different parts of our regulations. Say that the board should be consulted. I fully appreciate that some people have been in the loop. Great. I wish I was also in the loop. But the board has not discussed these issues.
We as a board, you were on, and I believe, and I agree with you on that, but I've been in the talks with the whole SLA thing, and I believe you on bereavement leave. If I get that wrong, I know you have the minutes, Ella, for that talk of the SLA, and everyone was on there, and by the time you came back, the whole other issues started that failed to have a board meeting for, but I did bring it to the board and I have their agreed wording to the agreement, and if I'm wrong you can tell me, Ella, right now. I know you have the minutes for them, and you were on the bereavement leave for that, and if you are...
When was this?
Literally up in the...
That's not a board meeting.
Yeah, but we never had a board meeting after that, so this is the thing. And it's not...
Are people happy with that though?
And that is
an official board meeting.
But it's okay, go on.
I mean, are the students happy with that?
But that's what I'd like to say, that it's not up for consultation when we were talking about it. It is up for consultation now. MUSA, which is Massey University Student Association Federation, which is made up of presidents from each association. We were in the talks about the SLA. I was brought into the talk as soon as I got to become president. It was December, and I started hearing about it, and I was like, okay, let's get onto the board with it. And I took their talks, whatever was happening, and then came to a point and was like, okay, now, guys, we need to do something about the merger. I then took, and I was like, okay, what's the next thing? The press release. 100% agree with you that it was supposed to bring to the board first, but that I said as well, if I had not put it through, they would put it through, and I would have got backlash from that end anyway. From my understanding, I did bring it to the board, but I do agree with you that we didn't have a board meeting like this per se.
Just to clarify, you said earlier, or it may have been Marla actually, I'm getting a little bit muddled together with the statements, but so this has been a long time coming, and more relevantly since January, this whole process. My understanding is, and someone can correct me if they can read the regulations, that you are a delegate for the board, you are not the board in and of yourself. So when these information comes back and forth, you are to act as a conduit, but if the board is not kept in the loop, as a collective, as we're supposed to, how do we, the collective we, make decisions on behalf of students? And that, if I'm not mistaken, MUSA is represented at the Federation, not the presidents. The presidents just happen to be the conduits and the delegates, because it would be impractical to have everyone in the room.
Can I just jump in quickly? I would just like a bit of clarification on something. I'm Kay. In regards to the merge, just before we get back to the collective point, you said that it was going to happen whether we like it or not. But you then proceeded to continue on not too long ago to say that it is a decision that still needs to be made. Can we get some clarification if it's actually our choice or if it's going to happen regardless?
The decision on how the merger looks is a decision that is going to be happening by the people. The decision of the federation and how that's going to be going and whether that's happening or not is happening, if I'm making sense, or if you can understand what I mean, is how that merger, how do we want to be merged, how does the governance side of things look, how does the seating look, how does whatever the name look, is something that is supposed to be consulted and talked about by the people, but it happening is going to be happening, if you understand what I mean.
So to clarify, we have an opportunity to make this decision. If we don't make it, Massey will make it for us. We have a deadline to make this decision, and if we do not make it, then it will go to Massey, and they will make the decision for us.
But Massey can't make decisions for the student board.
I agree.
It's okay. So they can't make our decisions on everything, right? But they can make this decision. This is about whether they decide to give money to our collective Massey associations as one, or to us separately.
Okay, so I'll just say a little bit more onto that. Okay, so this is from my understanding from what I've been working on, there are 3 ways to merge. One being we could do a merge of all the governance and basically have one place where all the money is funded to, and then from there the funding can distribute to each association. The second one was being how it can be merged in certain levels. There'll be certain streamlining in the operational level stuff as well as governance. And then the third option was a full merge. Sorry, I'm just having water in me. No, having a full merge. That is where the 3 was laid out for us as well, because of every association having their own problems as well. We said, look, do you know what, there's no point of us sitting around and having this talk, and we know that we can't make any decisions, we can only put proposals up, so let's just take it to the students and see how that consultation is going to go. And that's what we're doing, and that was literally the the press release as well, is that, hey, this talk has been happening, we will be consulting you. I've had actually last week we had a workshop with Ra Manotahi, we had Kokiri, we had Te Waka from Albany as well, and all the associations sitting together and talking about, hey guys, this is what these are the little talks that have been happening. We want to involve you as well, because right now they are treated separately, and we just wanted to make one for everyone. Yeah.
Can we just take a few steps back there? So going back to the implication, well, it's a pretty strong allegation to say that Massey can force us to accept an SLA. That doesn't sound like a negotiation. And that also doesn't sound very legal or practical on Massey's behalf. Traditionally, and I think the ex-presidents could probably chime in on that Massey contracts us to provide certain services and they pay us money for that. They can't force us to do things a certain way. As long as we can provide the services, surely they would contract through us. They can't force us to merge. I'm very sceptical that that statement in and of itself holds water.
Essentially, they do have that power.
To what end?
Speak to that if you'd like.
Alex, I just wanted to question your presence in your role, because I know that you were talking about in January there was a meeting in Wellington and you said you weren't there for it. I'm not sure if that's the same thing, but I saw on Facebook that you were actually there. Also, you're supposed to be in charge of the education as far as I'm concerned, but I'm got to do with the student association in engineering, Tech and Soc. We've never once been approached by you about our education. And as far as I've heard from other people, we've spoken to the Minister of Education directly, but we've never had the chance to talk through you, or you've never approached anyone that I am aware of about this respect. So I'm just wondering, like, what you're actually doing in your role.
I do agree that as far as getting around the different clubs has been quite difficult. For context, as is not public information, during orientation of this semester and subsequently Clubs Day, I was actually in and out of hospital with a pretty serious medical condition. So I wasn't able to form that early rapport with the clubs that I would have preferred. And since then, yes, it is true, I could have actually reached out and should have reached out to the clubs around Massey in a more general sense. I have reached out to quite a few clubs, but as we see on Clubs Day, there's over 100 of them, I think. Like there's a lot. And I do apologise. I should have actually reached out to your people, and I'm willing after this to make arrangements to come and see you more often.
I don't think this is just about clubs, though. I think this is about schools as a whole, because not all schools are have a club looking after their interests of their education. Engineering is lucky enough to have something put together that we do have student liaison meetings with the staff and the head of school, but as far as I'm aware, like other schools like the sciences don't have something like that. I'm not sure what about the other schools, but as far as I've seen, you've never approached any actual students, or besides the student rep thing, which is not really present in a lot of papers that I've had to do with, besides what we've organised ourselves, which has nothing to do with you. So I feel like you should have been chasing these up, looking for these student reps and actually finding out the perspective of students as a whole, not just your peers.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. That is basically the most difficult part of my job, is maintaining that connection between the Massey staff and the different spheres that I travel in, and actually talking to students on the ground. That is the most difficult job, to maintain those networks in both directions and be that conduit. That is definitely the hardest part of my job, and I strive to do better at that constantly. Obviously I can do a lot better with that.
Cool. Just so you know, we've got a few hands that have been put up, so I'm just going to make my best effort to come around to you in the correct order. So.
Sorry, there's actually quite a few points that have come up that I want to touch on, but the first one I'll just talk to is the SLA agreement and practically what Massey can do around that merger side of things. So I don't know if anyone knows about how student associations ran prior to VSM in 2012, voluntary student membership. Basically, the student fees that you pay went straight to an association, and they could do what they thought was in your best interest. After 2012, legislation came in, VSM, where that money now goes to the university, and they can then distribute that to an association or any provider they choose to fulfill what they think is in your best interest. So basically, you're in a power and imbalance there, where MUSA or any student association has to say, we can provide this service, we think we need this much money for it, will you give it to us? At any stage, it's a year-by-year contract. Massey can say, we don't think you can do it, we're taking all of the money, and give nothing to MUSA. Their mandate is they have to find a provider. It doesn't necessarily have to be MUSA. So they are very much, and have been, at the mercy of Massey, essentially. Not to say that Massey is doing anything wrong or they're doing a bad thing with it, but they do control and they do have a lot of power in that relationship. So I just want that to be clear. It isn't MUSA just saying we can do what we want.
To clarify, that is not at all what I said, so it's a mischaracterization.
I'm not saying anything about what you said. I'm saying that is the situation. There are a few other things as well. I mean, there are a lot of problems happening at the moment. The way I see it, there are about 4 different fronts at the moment. You've got Craig Black not being in the general manager position anymore, and the concerns around the staff within MUSA. There are obviously a lot of concerns from students towards MUSA and what that's going to look like for the future, and in the merger itself being the third point. And now what I'm seeing today, which appears to be, I'd say, fractures within the exec themselves. Frankly, I'm a bit angry at how you've come at Fatima there, Alex. You weren't in the loop, that's fine. I mean, well, it's not fine, but it's not the place here in front of students.
This is a general meeting. When else would I bring it up?
Probably outside of the meeting, so you can gain some clarifications to maybe why you weren't in the loop, rather than bringing it up in front of your membership who are meant to have confidence in you as a board. You are a board. You're not someone who's meant to be currying favour individually with students. You should be working as a board, not an individual trying to turn people against people at a general meeting. That's why
I wish it was that easy. I definitely wish it was that easy. And I do, in a perfect world, in an ideal world, that is indeed the conversation I would have had. But without getting into too much detail, the lines of communication are extremely limited within the board.
What have you done to change that?
Well, we haven't got enough time to go into fine detail, but to suffice to say, the only time I can actually get any of their real true attention is this forum. This is literally the only ability that I have to speak to them and receive replies to them without being told just flat out no or just ignored.
I'm sorry, but I'd argue that that's a similar answer that you gave regarding the tech and soccer and clubs. It seems miscommunication and non-communication is a trend with you at the moment, and I'd suggest that the whole board, not just you, I'm not picking on you, but the whole board sit down and clarify what that long-term future is. There needs to be discussions with staff about where things are going to be for them, what's happening for staff, what is happening long-term for students, what is the merger going to look like. There's a lot that needs to happen. In the reality though, you've been in for 6 months. I think, Alex, you're the only exec from last year who's come across to this year. You do what, between you 70, 80 hours a week, between all of you? There's a shitload of work that needs to be done, and you don't have a lot of time to do it. There's another 6 months. A lot of the questions that have come from students are incredibly valid. You know, a student association has a lot of money, they can do a lot of things for students. I think it's fair that these questions are coming to you, but there really needs to be a cohesive sit down with the board. Communication lines to staff, communication lines to students. We need to see a message coming through clearly what is going to happen. Sorry, rant.
And I absolutely agree with what you said. Absolutely. My intention wasn't to disparage anyone. I was merely stating a matter of fact. It can be taken as it is. I think that the easiest solution across the board to facilitate all of those things is to, as per the Constitution's requirements, have regular monthly meetings. That is the bare minimum of what we're required to do as a board, is to meet, discuss issues, and proceed on with business on the day. That is something at the most basic level that we've failed to do. This is the second meeting of this year. It's now almost the end of May. I don't know when we're expected to do work, either collectively or individually, if we can't meet and discuss things.
I appreciate that, and I'm pleased that you've said we. That's the first we I've heard from you as a board collective. From
Yep. I'd like to butt in. I kind of want to add on to that. It does seem, I don't know, I feel like I'm speaking on everyone here, on behalf of everyone. It kind of sounds like a lot of what you guys are saying need to be a staff meeting and not at a general meeting. Kind of seems like there's a bit of squabbling that needs to be sorted out, and it doesn't look so good to all of us, to be honest. I don't want to patronise, but I think it's just good to remind everyone what a union is. A union is an organisation that represents people. So you guys are representing students. The board members are delegates that have been elected in. A delegate has to represent everyone how they want to be represented. And if there is no confidence in the delegates, they get replaced. I've been a delegate for the NUW in Australia for 2 years before moving back to New Zealand. It's a hard job. But if people weren't doing what the workers wanted, it was easy. Well, everyone was happy to get rid of them, basically. I've also been in student unions in Australia. I know it can be hard. I know there's lots of different opinions. But I guess I'm just trying to remind everyone what a union is. You are independent of the university. Yes, there are some connections there, but you're not a business. You're actually working for the better of the students and for the people that work for the student union. Yeah, that's it.
Just want to say big ups to Michael Salmon. That was important. Thank you. I have a question again for the general board, and you can answer this with a really clear show of hands. Can members of the board raise their hand if they have been shown a proposal from the Federation, from the President, from whoever, about this upcoming single SLA merger thing? So if you've seen it on a piece of paper that you've been consulted on, board members, have you actually seen something? And
myself either, so that's what I'm trying to say. It is a proposal that's in the makes, and when that has been made, then it would be put up for an investigation. So that press release was merely to say that this is what we are planning on doing, and when it is done, we will be bringing it to the students. You can ask Kadar as well, is that we haven't created anything right now. It is up for talks right now, and that's what we've been sitting and doing.
So there were multiple proposals put to paper last year about the same thing. So I'm sure we could find copies if you'd like something to start with. And my other question is, how will the board as a team, and you maybe might want to come back and answer this later, how will you as a collective improve your lines of communication, improve your communication with students, and make sure that next board meeting happens on time?
Yeah, so first part about the proposal itself, I agree, we have all of us sat down and we have seen previous year's proposals, but this year because of the timing and whatever's happening at each association, we are putting a mashup of how we want it to be seen. We're doing a collaborative approach to this by having the multi-association sit with us and say that how can they be a part of it, rather than making that decision, going to the students and then saying, hey, this is the proposal we've created, this is what we've consulted on, do you want to be a part of it? So we're taking it from that perspective right now, is from the start having them in the conversation as well as the line of communication. I 100% agree with Michael and you as well, is that for me personally, my job is full-time, 35 hours or 40 hours, yeah. Technically I'm doing the acting general manager's position as well, and although I get paid for that many hours, I work right now for 60 to 70 hours. It is a full-time role. I go to bed, I'm still thinking about it. It's not only my job, it's what you make of it, and I'm aware that Michael as well as Stefan, you know very much so how that is as well. It's what you make of it, and I've made of it quite big. I've been a part of a lot of things, and so it's very tiring, and for them I bet they have their own commitments as well. And for me personally, a month meeting after a month and having a general meeting talk is, although constitutionally it's correct, I would like more of it. And when I'm in the building alone all the time, quite frankly, this is the first time I can say as well, and they know it as well, this is the first time after a while since we've all been in a room together. I've had multiple of them come to me separately and sit down and talk, but I cannot take it on my own when I have so many issues that I'm dealing with that I have to get done. I have deadlines to do, and then rally them up as well and come together and have a talk about certain things as well. So we do get the opportunity to sit down in a monthly meeting and have a talk, and I can assure you from now on it will be on time, it will be dated beforehand, and we will be more prepared. And yeah, it's good to hear that you guys are concerned, because that's what this is for. It's for accountability. But yeah. How?
Are you going to set a date
Yeah.
at the end of this meeting?
Yeah.
What are we going to do about it?
So last meeting when we had it, we said we're going to have it on every, get me wrong if you guys can, is it the Wednesday?
The minutes did say that we were going to have a meeting on the 21st.
The third, yes, the third, it's supposed to be the third Wednesdays of every month, and that's how we're going to go forward. But I do agree with you, from after this meeting we'll sit down, set a date for every single month from here on, and be well prepared. But yeah.
This is a question for Stefan and previous presidents, but you were bragging just before about how you've already had a number of proposals for this. Why did you not carry it forward?
So the Simple SLA is something that was brought to, and I'm not sure if it came to us handling as well, but Amy Heiss and now T. McGonagall-Daly, thank you, members of the staff who have been sort of bringing this word down, saying this is what Massey wants. Now, last year, the associations got together and tried to come up with a plan that they felt was palatable, and as soon as they could agree, then they would bring that to the rest of the students. But hey, here's what we think. What do you think? How can we do better? We honestly couldn't agree. We couldn't get to a point where the student associations, the four general associations and the multi-associations could come to an agreement that they wanted to put forward to students together. And so by the time I finished my presidency, that is as far as we had gotten.
So if you had these issues and you couldn't do it in here, why are you attacking the previous executive board for not doing it?
I just want to make sure that everyone knows what's happening. We couldn't get past a point where we had anything to bring to students, but apparently a staff member has been made redundant because of this merger, so that's why I'm worried.
I'd just also like to state that I have nothing wrong with the actual merger nor the progress that it's making. My only concern there is the lack of transparency first off as a separate point within the board, and then as a second point to students, 2 separate points. I appreciate that there have been very specific conversations had with specific interested parties and specific board members. That's great, but again, I don't think it's appropriate that the board as a collective, and I am one vote of that, as are the rest of us, that I find out news about what we're doing from a press release that's found on Facebook. Like, I don't want to learn new information about what my organisation is doing at the last possible moment with no heads up. I think that was poorly handled. That could have been done better. I like the fact that we're going ahead with this proposal. I'd like to make it very clear that I love the idea that we're going to be doing this proposal. The devil, again, is also in the details. But again, without having seen the document for over a year since last year when we looked at it, I was lucky enough to actually see the MUSA version of the proposal approximately about a year ago, I believe, Stefan. And I know that there were multiple counter proposals from the other associations, as Stefan said. But then since that those events happened last year, I've not seen or heard or been privy to any of the conversations whatsoever regarding this merger. I've only been hearing things through your public statements, and I feel that that's a bit disingenuous and could be more transparent internally, and then as a flow-on effect then to students, because I don't see the advantage of keeping certain members in the dark.
I'll say it again. And I agree with you 100%, Alex, and hopefully moving forward here will be better than this, but there's no proposal as of yet. It is a thing that we are developing, and when we want to take it to the students from the get-go, so that proposal is created among them as well. There are, when we say students, there are communities within students as well, and each community wants to be represented the way they would like and how they want to do it. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, I'd just like to speak to that point of the whole discussion around the merger. I just want to ask the presidents, and maybe this reflects why it's taking us so long, but why were the Māori associations not in the conversation from the get-go? Like, why did they get proposed a proposal and were not part of making a proposal?
They were in the room at the meetings with Amy Heiss and with Teddy Deli. It's that simple. They were in the room.
I have one of the last exec members who would like to talk to this.
Kia ora koutou, ko Susan Hipi toku ingoa. I was the vice president last year for Manawatahi. So with the SLA agreement, COVID happened, SLA happened. So we were first informed to have a hui with, actually we had a governance training with MUSA. I think it happened in February, just before semester 1 started. And then we weren't at the decision-making table of what that SLA looked like. Myself, Kiwa, and a couple of others of our exec were pretty much in a room. There was Stefan, Craig, I think there was is you and Craig? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking about the meeting beforehand where it was us, K2, and ASA and MUSA.
So the first one that I went to was that we had engagements to actually decide was that Māori weren't at all consulted at the decision-making table. We were only consulted when there was actually a proposal in place, and from what we as an exec got out of it last year, it was pretty much you, Stefan, telling us this is the proposal, agree or not. And the way we handled it, we just pretty much thought, why would we agree to something that we had no involvement over? So I definitely tautoko Fatima for making the effort this year to involve us as Māori. We're just as important as obviously MUSA, and the representation for Māori on this campus is huge. And there's a lot of times that we deal with this. This is normal for us, for not getting a voice, for Massey University telling us how we are to be Māori. So yeah, definitely looking forward now, hoping that coming out of all this, we as Māori are at the table right from the start. But yeah, last year we did not get a decision to come up with the proposal that Stefan gave us on a piece of paper. It was pretty much, read this. This is where you sit. Yes or no? Yep, we said no because we thought to ourselves, why should we? We want to have a say. We don't like the way that the structure looks like. We want to have an involvement to, but it was pretty much MUSA telling us last year that they will have autonomy over us. So, kia ora.
That's not what that organisation started. But before that, sorry, the meeting with, again, Ted and Delhi and with Amy Heiss, who were the people from Massey pushing this meeting at, K2 and Tima Akana were both there.
The first time when you gave us the proposal.
That's before that. That's the first meeting with Massey. One of the people was absent from.
So everything that happened last year, I understand that a lot could have come from us, but you pretty much didn't tell us that you were even making a proposal. You were pretty much said to us, this is our proposal, look at this is where you sit. So we didn't even say that there was a working document. We didn't get consulted at all. So I'm definitely supporting Fatima moving forward now because she does consult us and we do have a voice. And as far as they're representing us as Māori.
Can I just quickly just add in there? It seems pretty apparent to me because I didn't know about any of that, and I was there last year. But I wasn't there in the specifics of actually being in those rooms, but I was on the board at least. It seems pretty clear to me that perhaps a common element that I'm hearing both from all parties actually is that all of the negotiations, all of the proposal, all of the discussions for the so-called merger have all been happening almost exclusively within the president's realm. That actual boards have never actually been discussing these issues. Now, I do concede that last year we had a very brief meeting while we were in our Wellington retreat last year where we talked about the proposal. But as far as the lion's share of all of these discussions seems to be only be happening with just the presidents and the presidents alone. And I don't think that's within line of the idea of a union. I don't think that's in the line with the idea of a board. That everything should be within. It should only 5 people be able to be in control of all of Massey students. I think that's a bridge too far, in my opinion. And I think we all, and I say collectively, all of the Fed could do a lot better about actually bringing together our collective voices rather than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other people actually making the decisions. We should all be going back and forth to our boards with each little development, because that's why we're here. That's why we were all voted in. It isn't just like the president's show, it's the board show.
And I agree with that, but when that proposal or something has been created from, so in the ideal way, what will happen is that everyone sits together in a room, talks, gets something done, and from the governance level, and then takes it out to the students, get the consultation, and comes back. Because of the hours and everything that people have, the presence is usually in that role and gets that conversation going. No decisions, I would like to reiterate, no decisions have been made, and when a proposal is created, it will be brought to us and then will be brought among to the students and consulted in that way. If you understand what I mean. But I get what you come from.
So just to clarify, there is no currently any paper draft whatsoever?
Nothing.
It's just email chains, that's it?
Yeah, so when that has been, and you can ask that as well, and that's why we've had this conversation from the get-go, is that I've been well aware of how things have happened in the past, and all presidents sat down, were like, look, we can sit here, create a proposal, take it to the Māori Association, take it to the executives, get a yes, no, change it up how we would like it, and take it to the students, get a yes, no, bring it back and make it happen. We wanted to do it a different way. We said, look, when we're having these conversations, even though if it is a proposal, it makes sense to have that conversation from the start, and that's what we're doing. And when that proposal has been created, and that is my form of transparency, is to tell that when that proposal is ready, we will be taking it out for the consultation. And although that might not happen in the best way through the communications, because I understand people have probably taken it another way and said, well, the merger's already happening, they're making the decision, we should hold an SGM and we should take them to be accountable, and I agree with that, but no decisions have been made as of yet, and I'd like to reiterate that, and when that is, you will be brought up among others as well.
So just so I can get it very abundantly clear, and for the minutes also, that there is a 3-stage process there, not a 2-stage process. Am I getting that right? So that from the presidents discussing what they discuss, then the individual boards that those presidents are part of, and then is a step 3 students. Yeah. So not one then skipping straight to step 3.
No. So basically, when I say presidents, Ra is a president as well, and I would not like to eliminate MUSA as well, the Pacifica voice as well. So they are quite well informed as well. The Pacifica clubs as well have been talking among themselves as well, that how would they, because we're wanting a TTT-led governance board, a TTT-led organisation, and that's why we've done it from the get-go. I know Massey has its own way of saying how they're leading, but yes, we are independent, and this is how we are wanting to take that lead upon. And then yes, so when that is done, we'll be taking it back here. We'll have that discussion. What do we like? What do we not like? Have that consultation, and then take it to the students and say what they want. But yeah, when that happens.
So within that same frame of mind, before we move on, might I suggest that in the future, say starting from next month, so I don't think you've got time to do it this time, but starting from next month, when we have our next monthly meeting, what we could do and what we should do is in a part 2, when it's private, when it's just the board, we can discuss what the latest developments were in the last month of what is being discussed. So we're also in that conversation of that stage 1
I
conversation.
agree with you. I think we should have a
like
discussion.
A debrief,
yeah, I think we should have a discussion among the group how that looks, whether we really want a month, because a month is a long time, whether we want it to be a weekly or a fortnightly thing. We'll have that discussion among us and see how that goes forward.
I mean, in my particular case, and I'm only just one role, one seat on the board, when a student comes to me and asks me, hey, I heard about this thing, what's going on? Embarrassingly, every single time I have no idea I know what you know. And that makes me feel very embarrassed and ashamed that I'm not kept in the loop. I feel like I've not done my job properly by not informing students, and I can only tell people what I know. So that makes my life a lot harder. Yes. Going back to something you did mention though regarding time commitments, I don't think, speaking from my own portfolio here, I don't think that there is any kind of concern that we don't have time to meet to discuss these kind of things. I don't think that's a relevant excuse. And also the fact that the monthly meetings aren't frequent enough, we can actually have more than one monthly meeting. It says at least monthly in the Constitution.
Is this a discussion that could be had? Like, we've got a captive audience, more students I've seen here in 2 years. Let's hear from them, please. Like, you guys can talk about this. Yeah, we gotta keep your audience. Yeah, sorry, Alex.
I think it should be your role that if you
talk for like 20 minutes.
If you don't know an answer, it should be your position to go and find out the answer, not be, I don't know, I'm not informed. I don't think that's good enough.
I absolutely agree. Can
I talk, please? Yep. Please. Okay, I have 2 questions. I would like to know what all of this means for the groups that rely on MUSA, like the groups like Union Q. What does all of this mean for them? Do they still get the support?
Are we talking about the merger? Yeah. So when we're talking about the merger, that's only because of streamlining, if we do the governance mergers, the operation mergers, it streamlines the funding, thank you, the funding, as well as streamlines the operational services. So whatever's happening, it will not affect. I can say it will not affect any group itself. It might actually better it, meaning that UniQ up in Auckland and up down in Wellington and what we've got might streamline whatever they're doing to give a enhanced experience in all campuses, whether that be MAD as well, if you understand what I mean. So if, like for instance, if MUSA has the best clubs and Auckland has the best design and Wellington has the best class rep, we take and we sit together, and that operational team sits together and sees, hey, how can we best fit this, and you're doing this well, can we adopt that? So basically streamlines the experience, the work, and then the students get to experience the same level at each association, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I just have one more question,
Yeah.
and it's related to the parking one. How are you guys expecting us to pay $220 when some of our like textbooks are like $190 and we've got high living costs?
And I agree with that as well, and that's what I think the initial starting conversation was, to start that conversation with the university and say, hey, look, can there be a system where we can get this going? And then I think hopefully when that connection starts and gets built, then we can see how we can better it. But I 100% agree with you. How do you expect us to do it when we don't have that? Completely agree.
Cool. We've got a few more people in the pipeline, so I'll make my way around to you.
Hello. Sorry, I've been holding on to this for a while, but so when you talk about the proposal, do you mean that the proposal for how it's going to look has not yet been finished? Okay. So that plan isn't there, and you said that Craig's redundancy was to do with the proposal, or the... So, like, how can structural changes happen when an actual proposal for a plan to go ahead hasn't yet been put forward?
So, okay, good. So our relationship with our operational team is that my relationship as an employer to Craig is that he's my employee and I'm his employer. And he himself has been in the conversation about the merger as well for many years now, because there were talks happening with the presidents and everything of how a potential proposal could happen. And my job as a employer was, look, I could go out and get this thing going, and then in return, if the proposal goes through and then they say that, hey, yeah, like if there is a clause in there that we don't want a general manager's position, or we don't want this, and this is how the board is thinking right now, if I'd taken it out and then if that went through and I brought it back to him, that in my way would not be the best way to express or tell him, if you get what I mean. So I took legal advice, I took all that, and that is how I went through it. And the term voluntary redundancy is a thing that has been decided upon, and it doesn't come from my end, if you could understand what I'm coming from.
Yeah,
we could have a separate talk if you'd like about this as well.
Yeah, I might come talk to you.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's completely understandable. I understand people's the term and everything, but I said this in the letter as well to Leola and everyone, is that if you have concerns, if you want more clarity, yeah, I'm more than happy to have a sit down and have a coffee and genuinely just sit down and explain everything, if that helps.
Yeah, because it might just be ignorance on my part as to how it's all happening, but it just seems like getting Craig's voluntary redundancy before an actual plan's gone forward is confusing to me and to a fair few students.
Agreed.
I know Stefan kind of brought it up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, agreed. We can have a seat and we can get this going. No worries.
Cool. And also, yeah, this will be put online somewhere, so if you need to shoot off, you can catch up on it.
Hiya. So I've actually got a couple different points to talk about. So my first one, kind of the most pressing issue for myself, is as a student on the exec of a club, we've had financial issues. So I'm actually the treasurer of the club. We've had financial issues that we've been in talks with Craig about, and now that he's gone, our club has not been consulted about what's happening with club's bank accounts, how we can get our bank account back, how we can get our money, because we're a drama society. We've just put on a show and we're actually getting all our bills coming in now, and me personally, I'm having to pay out of pocket because I can't get the money. So I would like to know, is there actually a plan in place to get these bank accounts back for clubs?
So I dealt with the same issue in MUSA as well, that when Craig left, I didn't have authorization, administration, there was nothing placed, and we didn't have any way to pay suppliers, pay things, and it's actually been very recent that I finally got my name on and finally got things going that we can go and pay people through it. But yes, and I actually have a meeting this afternoon with the club to get that going as well. So yeah.
Cool. So probably I'll come and talk to you probably later about
definitely.
our own club.
Yeah.
And then my second issue is, as a disabled person, as a disabled student, I'd like to know sort of what sort of plans do you have in place for having disabled students' voices, first of all within this merger and the proposals, but also just because it's mentioned a few times with parking, because I find personally parking is my biggest issue, because I'm here for 8-9 hours a day and I either have to park in a spot where I'm only allowed to park there for 3 hours and then I have to move, or I have to pay for parking, pay extra, and I'm all the way down the back, and usually I can't get a disabled park, so I have to park all the way at the back and I have to walk. I'm lucky and fortunate enough that I can do that. I do get very physically tired, but I know there are many other disabled students that cannot do that, so.
Awesome. I'll take that first part of it as in how can we get disabilities, people's voices on the merger. I think Di can support me in this as well, is that after we get the Māori's voices, how that's going to seem as well. We have seats and ideas of having a rainbow community as well as disability chairs and having that talk as well. So yeah, that is happening. In terms of the parking and your issues, this is the stage I wasn't aware of it. So as my role as well, when people come to me and talk to me about it, then I can shoot and find some ways to do it. So yeah, we can have that talk about the first thing as well as the second thing, and we can get that going as well.
So you previously mentioned that there were a few financial difficulties happening within MUSA. Would you care to elaborate on that? And just from basic assumption, I'm assuming that that would also be part of the reason why funding for certain clubs has not gone through at certain points. Like, it's obviously started there with the MUSA and it's sort of backlogged there. So just, would you be able to clarify what happened?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so when when Craig left, and my handover was I got a sheet of paper with all the passwords to everything, as a handover is, and so I was in the talks with Westpac, who's our credit card and everyone provider, and when I called them up and we were having talks and we were like, okay, so I need administration, I need authorization to pass certain things through to get stuff going, how can I get that done? We went talks and we found out that the admin as well as authorizations of people who were listed for Westpac have left 6-7 years ago. So we had to get that to stop, and then finding a way to get myself on there took, and I don't know if Jaden's here, my accounts officer, he's well aware of the amount of pain and pressure that both of us have been in, and the amount of travel that he's done here and there to get signatures, to get things going has been incredible. So yeah, it's been very difficult. And yeah, we got authorization and administration eventually, and we paid suppliers, paid stuff through. Yes.
So just to clarify then, the financial dealings within MUSA in previous years with regards to payments was essentially set up illegally, or like based legally from negligence, like as in what they were doing with having people setting it up from people who have left the company previously. Surely that could have been something that would have been fixed in previous years. Like, who's in charge of that?
Well, potentially, I agree with you, but I came here now and this is my job, and yeah, so there are, look, I'm very honest with whatever I've dealt with, and people who know me and who've come to me know my experiences at MUSA since I've been elected in. I've had a lot of pain in certain areas, and it's been very hard to get things through. For some people think that it's me myself, but yeah, so one of the things were that there have been some issues with the money, but yeah, it's fixed now. All that's what we can say is we can move forward and hope nothing bad happens. Yeah.
That was a very kind answer to the previous presidents in the room, but I'd actually like to stand up in front of that one as well. As an executive, as a board, basically your job is to, uncover the paving stones, look underneath and find all the grime and the crap that's not working. I can say from my own time that didn't happen very well. We basically didn't do as much thorough checking as we have. a lot of the reason that there's so many of us here today in this meeting is because the current executive have done that. They have gone to the dark corners of things that have been neglected and left behind, uncovered them, and now they've got a shitstorm to deal with. It's not pretty, but it's necessary. A practical example from my own time, credit card that I had, that was the president's one, had a previous president's name on it, which, yeah, I think we all know off the bat that's not how things should be done. So I think I actually just wanted to point out that though you're here getting both barrels from a lot of people, I've got a lot of respect for you actually doing that dirty work, all of you digging up, you know, the crap that needs to be sorted and making an effort to, where previous presidents, myself included, have basically been able to turn a blind eye to it and just go, oh well, we're busy with this instead. So yeah, massive respect for putting yourself in that firing line.
Any more students who want to talk?
Kia ora again. Yeah, just to follow up on that, yeah, it seems like a lot of this is really structural issues and long time issues in the association. I wanted to speak to a couple of things which came up. One was your point about the tech and SOC, feeling like engineering students aren't consulted. I'm a humanities student. I also have no idea what's happening at MUSA. I didn't even know that there were monthly exec meetings that we could attend as members of MUSA until the open letter came out. I haven't got an email saying, hey, you're part of this union, this is what we do, this is the ways you can engage with it. Which is kind of like, brings it into that second thing that I wanted to touch on, which I've forgotten the name, sorry, but she was sitting there talking about the way that we work as a union. I don't have much student association experience, but I've been involved in, you know, frontline telling the boss to go and shove it at my old factory. As a union, like, we don't have to take shit from the university. Like, if the board and the student body are connected and working as one, then we can tell them to go shove it. And we can follow that up through campaigning, political pressure, protests, through withdrawing, like, financial, what's the term? I've forgotten the term, but it's like boycotting, divesting. There's a lot of power that students have, and especially because a lot of the wealth of the university is caught up in its brand and its ability to attract new students. We can cause a ruckus if we want to. So if they're saying, hey, you have to sit down and do this with the SLA merger or go screw yourselves, well, there's no reason we can't say, well, go screw yourselves back. But this rests on us having a process to bring our students together, get us in the loop in the first hand, get all of our voices together and unite around these issues. That means that there needs to be a much stronger communications relationship between board and exec and students. There needs to be a, like, there's no branch structure. Who do I go to say, hey, humanities are having this problem? What's the responsibility for making sure that consultation happens? How do we ensure that that keeps happening? And obviously this is the problem you're running into now with structures. So I wanted to speak to that as, like, the union model does work and we do have successes with it. Like, there's so many people here today sending our voices out there on stuff that matters. This does matter to us. We do want to be consulted. It's just never been an option for us. So yeah, I'd really like to ask the board to put those processes of communication in place, to email all members, to have members meetings, to have locals. Yeah.
If I can quickly respond to a couple of those points. I've been a big fan of advertising the monthly meetings. In the past, without getting into too much drudgery, the timing and the planning and the locations, the logistics of planning the meetings has been chaotic, to say the least. And this isn't just talking about this year, I'm talking about last year as well in my tenure. That settling on a date, on a time, on a location, whether we go over Zoom, whether we do it in person. Last year especially, we all know why, that was an issue. This year we're not on the same constraints. as we've discussed ad nauseum earlier, more regular meetings should be happening, and those should be advertised far and wide. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I like the sound of that. And moving to your other point there, I think the main system that we use at the moment for general feedback from individual student cohorts in different disciplines is through the class rep system. Albeit, there is some enhancements we could do outside of that system, but just to highlight that the class rep system that MUSA operates, both internally and for distance students as well, is a very well fleshed out system that the way that it works is I work with the internal student engagement coordinator and the external student engagement coordinator, and we facilitate the class reps training. So what's supposed to happen is that Massey has instructed every single course coordinator to, when they do their week 1 slides that you all go to, the first week we have no content, you're supposed to have the introduction to your course that says, hey, this is where the fire exits are, all the very general information. There's supposed to be some sort of a pitch that someone puts their hand up to be a class rep. So every class ideally should have at least one class rep, and that's really the eyes and ears that we need to be able to be everywhere at once. Otherwise it's just not simply logistical to be everywhere at once. But that's probably the best way that we can have feedback from different student cohorts come to MUSA, and we can use that information, depending on the nature of the information, to make the world better a place, essentially. Outside of the class rep system, I'm all ears for suggestions of how we can enhance our communication. We obviously have this Facebook page, social media. I think we have Instagram. We obviously have a website that doesn't really get used an awful lot. We have a lot of different platforms that we could be communicating on. Advertising, so for instance, as you mentioned, advertising the monthly meetings. I'm a big fan of the fact that we're actually creating events for that now, and we should continue doing so. Like we do with the other MUSA events that we hold, we usually have those posted onto the Facebook page many months in advance, because as some of you may know, but probably most of you don't know, almost all of the dates for MUSA's calendar is done a year in advance. So we can plan all that stuff because we do plan most of it anyway a year in advance. I think that covers most of what you mentioned.
Just with regards to comments previously said of how organisations deal with working with the university, it seems like in previous years, like organisations such as MUSA have essentially just gone and told the university to shove it. Like, I don't know, if I was the university, I feel like that doesn't really create good grounds for starting a relationship where you can actually build good, sustainable progress. Like, in what way is MUSA, I guess, working now with the university to do that instead of just spending the whole time making them the bad guys? Because at the end of the day, we're still all here to go to Massey, and they're the ones who provide us with our education.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I'm going to say both your parts from my end a bit more. So I had no plans whatsoever to enter student politics. I'm into politics quite a bit. I've had backgrounds of stuff, but student politics was an area for me that whenever I looked into it, there was a lot of talk, but not a lot of mahi, and it really used to get me mad because I was like, well, we're all these passionate people, but what's the end goal here? Where are we going? I ran because I was like, well, what is MUSA? I've never heard of them. Who are they? What's going on? And quite frankly, when I was running, I was like, we were doing the whole debate thing when we were talking and all that. I'm like, okay, great. I was hearing answers. I'm like, okay, great. They're actually doing a lot. Maybe I don't need to be here. And then I won, and then I was like, okay, great. Well, I'm now president. But now I'm gonna, for the first 3 months, I was like, okay, do you know what? I need to understand what's actually happening at MUSA. Understood a lot, talked around, saw the numbers, because I am a come from a business background, so I was purely looking at it from numbers and seeing how it goes, as well as, okay, well, are students' voices getting there? And to your point about how does Massey see us, so when I came in, I've been lucky. I have a great relationship with Massey before I entered MUSA. Since I actually started my journey at Massey, I knew Massey, I had connections to Massey since I was in year 11, through talks and everything. So I had that grounds, I knew the Vice Chancellor, so I started, I had a meeting with him at the start of the year, and then I have monthly meetings with Tere, who's the Deputy Vice Chancellor. I'm on steering groups as well, so that's how you create your rapport with them as well. I ask for coffees and be like, look, this is what we're dealing with, can we ask some stuff for you from your side as well. When I came in, I didn't get that vibe from MUSA at that point, maybe because years change, different governance, everything's different. My goal this year was for a partnership model. It was to sit together and talk about, hey, look, we are together in the same place, so let's grow it from that point of view. And that's what I got in return as well. That's why a lot of work that I have been able to do has been from a lot of work from Massey as well. So things that are going to come out, as well as my current situation with Massey, it is both ended, and that I'm hoping this is what I want this year, and hopefully my board as well, is a partnership model. Next year, I don't know what governance is going to be. I don't know whether they want to take it from that point of view. That's their choice. For your question regarding how do we get how do you know to come to MUSA and basically know that, if I'm getting this wrong, am I trying to say what you said was around you don't know what's happening at MUSA, so how are you expected to get your point across, or am I taking it the wrong way?
I don't understand. To me, at least, as a new member, coming in starting second semester last year, I had no communication as to how I can be involved in MUSA and how I, as a member of MUSA, can get my voice across and my perspective heard. It was unclear to me what those structures are.
Yeah, I had the same as well. So I've been here this is my third year now at Massey. I had no clue who MUSA was until last year, right at the end, when I started seeing the elections happening, this is happening, I'm going to start reading into it. So I agree with you, and I feel like that's a problem that is in every association to a certain level. For a student association, sometimes in Wellington, I believe VUSA, Victoria, does it very well, because that cohort, or that representation, that people are interested in that side of things. So, and I feel like MUSA, at least this year, I can only speak from this year, is that it is very hard to get that point across. So hopefully creating systems, whether that be through social media, through talks, through events, just purely on a level that we can create a system, will be helpful. How we do it, I have no clue, so that's where we're all ears as well. We're as new to this as you are as well. And it's kind of one bad thing about student associations is that because of that year turnaround for governance, the first 6 months it takes us to learn the system, and the next 6 months takes us to try to develop that system, but then by the end of it you're probably leaving anyway. So I agree with you on everything. Hopefully finding a way at some point to get the connection better would be nice, and I think we're doing at least a first step to it by having that big of a turnout. Do we have any more questions, or can we start with the monthly meeting? It's great though, thank you, but we kind of need to get that going as well, if that's fine. I know people probably came to the meeting to say their concerns. I would like to say on behalf of MUSA again, thank you for that. We are here for you guys, and although right now there are tough times for us right now, I can say that we are doing it or at least I can speak, we are doing it for the best interest for students, although it does come off potentially right now that whatever I'm doing is seeming harsh, but I can tell you that hopefully in the coming months, you guys can see the fruit of what we are planting right now. Yeah. Any more questions, guys? Sorry, 2 questions at the end. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to continue with this. If you guys do have questions, you guys can answer. I can answer at the end. We can answer then. Or if not, MUSA is right upstairs. My room is 2.21. Come at the back. We can literally just sit down and all talk and get this going. But thank you. Great. Perfect. Ella, you want to come here? Craig didn't get this one.
Before they kick off, I just want to reiterate that we will put this up online. I know there's a lot to digest, so if you want to touch on anything, we'll make sure there's a place you can get it. So keep your eyes peeled probably sometime later today.
Great. We'll head to 5. Health and safety, that's supposed to be provided by the operation team. Nothing has been sent in from April, so we'll be carrying on from there. NZUSA, my update would be we're looking into pastoral care from a student association wise, so providing submissions and talking to NZUSA to give that, lobby the government on that level.
The submission date for the pastoral care thing that the Ministry of Education is running through shuts this Friday. So if you have anything that you want to put in, just Google it up. It's online. I had a discussion with them last week. So a lot of it was regarding food and accommodation and general mental health. So if you're interested in that, Google it up and submit.
But yeah, no, I think that goes to the comms as well, so we'll be looking into that as well. Strategic discussion. Quite frankly, there's been not any discussion as of yet that requires to that level. Hopefully, I am intending for the next month there is going to be key matters that are going to be brought up, whether that be how the manager's position looks, the restructuring, all that happens will be looked upon then. If you go to Appendix 1, that will be where my reports are for April and for March and April. Take it as read. There have been a lot more stuff that I've been doing, but those I just lay it out in that way so you know what's going on. Yes, Tyler?
The inquiry is done by the Education and Workforce Select Committee, not the Ministry of Education.
Sorry.
Okay. Great. So if you have any questions regarding my report or would like to know any more information on that, you guys are more than welcome to ask me. The next one's about the GM's report, which I believe is for March, which is by Craig before he left.
Okay, sorry, I just remembered something. Can we just backtrack back to 5.4 for strategic discussion?
Mm-hmm.
There was some discussion about that in the open letters and whatnot, and also at the last meeting regarding strategic discussion. Is it at all possible, and how does the board feel about the documents I presume Craig would have given to you, you know, the ones on the butcher paper?
Yeah, so exactly. For about the strategic workshop, I've been given nothing. I've asked.
Did those get thrown out, or did
I don't know where they are. I asked. So that's okay. So about one of the items on the letter was that about the strategic planning. I believe the strategic planning. In my last meeting when I had it, I said that MUSA is planning on having a meeting on the 29th of March. We will be discussing about a future strategic plan. I didn't have, there weren't sufficient people come in for that meeting. Since then, 2 weeks notice was Easter break happened. After it came in, there was talks about the restructuring and everything, and from then on, Craig left, so that there has been nothing about the strategic planning at all. So hopefully we're intending of starting it in the near future.
Yeah,
And when
that's
it
a real
does,
shame, yeah.
so when it does, you guys will be hearing of it as well. As I said in my previous meeting, if a draft or proposal is created, it will be consulted by you guys, but nothing has been done as of yet, so there's nothing to discuss, if that is fine.
Cool.
Yeah. So President's report, GM's report, take it as read. Executive monthly reports as well, take it as read. And I think my executives would have the minutes from the previous meeting. Emails have been sent out by admin as well, so I hope you guys have all read it as well. So just the motion be put that the minutes dated 17th March be adopted as a true and correct record.
Aye.
Whoever says aye.
Aye.
You're diminishing right now. Yep. Cool.
Sorry, I'll have to vote against on that one. Sorry.
No problem. Great. You got it? Yeah. Yep. Awesome. So whoever says aye, aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Against. Alex, abstain. Motion passed. Matters arising from previous minutes were Alex, yours was fixed from my understanding from admin. Items for discussion is that you...
Can I just speak to that? I'm not entirely sure what that means as it's written. After the minutes were released last month, what was it last month? Sorry, it was April. April, the minutes were released in the very rough draft form, and that same day I read through them and found numerous mistakes and corrections that needed to be made, and information that was essentially missing. And I didn't receive a reply or any receipt of my email to that, so I assume it never got actioned.
Sorry, Alex. As you can see, we always have students leaving because this is dragging on.
Well, this is important.
I feel like
part
this
of our
should be
meeting.
a discussion between the exec and how we.
This is the exec meeting.
Yeah.
So if I could just finish my sentence, that would be awesome. So essentially, putting the onus on myself to fix the minutes, I don't think is fair on me or fair on the board. Thank you.
Awesome. Ella, do you have anything to say to that? Or?
I adjusted the minutes and I had done the final draft using your one. I just forgot to reply saying I can see that thanks. Yeah.
Awesome, great.
Sorry about
Perfect. Items for discussion. General Manager's recommendation for Healthy Homes, Appendix 5, if everyone could have a look at that. I believe the agenda had been sent out to the executives on May 17th. You don't have one, do you? Have been sent out on May 17th, so I'm assuming my executives have seen it, but if they haven't, this is a position where they can. I feel like we can have more of a discussion in part 2 if need be on these sections, if we want to do it then. What do you guys think? Part 2, we can have the discussion then. Perfect. I'm sorry, can we go back?
Yeah.
I'll take the next one as part 2 as well then.
Move that as a motion.
Move that as a motion? Yeah. Awesome. Okay, well then I move that the item for discussion be talked about in part 2 by the executives. Could I please have a seconder? Yeah. Alex, or say aye, or aye, yeah. Perfect. Passed. And yeah. And in the general business, I've already talked about it, about the comms for parking, but that's a little bit more into it. And Massey provided food is mainly around the food system, which I discussed about having in the near future about developing the food in Massey. And I think that is, yes. Yes. Awesome. Any other matters? Any things you guys want to have a talk about? be good. Yep. Awesome. Well, before I think I will close the meeting there, but I will just have Shola speak now because Shola is MUSA's international officer, and he can talk more here from here.
Hi, my name is Shola, and I'm the international student executive. Yeah, so I became the international executive in February. It's been a very good learning curve. Though we had issues, but I guess from this meeting it's going to be smooth. Yeah, so I basically have like a week remaining for me to resign because I'm going back home. Yeah, so I wish MUSA all the best. Yeah, and I wish the association as well as the executive, a smooth ride. I'm always happy to groom my next replacement. Yeah, fine.
Awesome. Yeah, no, he's done great work there. Awesome. From here, you will be hearing from us about having an election to having a by-election to get an international officer back into it as well, and the postcode as well when we have created that position. But yeah, awesome, great. So I say that is it a motion or is it something we close part 1 and we go to part 2 where we as executives talk privately. Awesome. Great. Thank you so much for coming. If you guys have anything to say, please come and talk to me right now, or we can talk later as well. Thank you, everyone. Bye.